Hello, and welcome everyone to the Chevron Locked Podcast, a podcast all about Stargate and the Stargate universe. Join myself, BC, and my fellow hosts, Kevin and Mark, as we talk about SG-1, Atlantis, and Stargate universe. The approach we are taking is to look at 2 or 3 episodes per podcast and discuss those. Thanks for checking us out, and we hope you enjoy the conversation. Hello, and welcome everybody to episode 3 of Chevron Locked. My name is BC. Of course, I'm joined as always with Kevin and Mark. How are you guys doing today?
Doing good.
Doing well.
Tonight we're going to look at episodes 6, 7, and 8, or what we deem, as we talked about last week, episodes 6, 7, and 8, which are Cold Lazarus, the Nox and Brief Candle. I think Kevin's going to go ahead and walk us through Cold Lazarus. Mark's got some information about the Nox, and then I'll kind of finish it off with Brief Candle tonight. So, did we talk about last week, by the way? I can't remember when we recorded that. Did we talk about Carrie Fisher passing away last week?
No, she passed away just the day after we recorded.
It was the day after, that's right. Yeah.
I feel like I jinxed it.
What, did you say something about Carrie Fisher last week?
I did.
No,
I feel bad.
Did you Black Widow this thing?
I did. I'm so sorry.
Wow. I didn't, I'm going to have to go back and listen to that. We're going to have to re-upload that without the Carrie Fisher reference in there then. But yeah, that was incredibly sad. We did talk off-cast a little bit about, the fact that she had already recorded her stuff for episode 8, sorry. And she was supposed to have a presence in episode 9, so we'll kind of see how they handle that. We spoke. I'm turned off on the idea of the digital recreation, so I'm hoping they don't go that way, that they just rewrite her and take her away nicely versus just trying to use her image in future movies. So I going back to Rogue One, it was just one of those things that I liked how they showed her at the end of the movie with her back turned, and I felt like that was enough. Like, as a viewer, that was the perfect referencing to get us into A New Hope. So hopefully they handle that with discretion. So we'll kind of keep an eye out on that. So we'll go right into it with episode 6, which was Cold Lazarus. Kevin, you want to take us away?
Absolutely. I loved this episode. Cast, there was really nobody of any importance in this episode aside from the major cast of it. And then they get right into it where they're on a planet, crystals, and I just found that Daniel Jackson missed the point on most of what they were doing, which is typical of him. What did you
missed in what regard?
Well, they looked like they grew there. They didn't look like they were put there by anybody, and he would not let that go. He kept saying that it was some sort of ritual or some sort of something, and they were nothing like that to me, at least. They were non-uniform. They were just kind of scattered everywhere and broken.
I agree with you there. I do absolutely agree with you there. Yes.
And I just feel like this was such a wonderful episode for setting up more backstory for Jack. Let me give you a little overview for anybody who may not remember this episode. They go through the Stargate. They find a bunch of broken crystals. Jack touches one. Another Jack wakes up and goes back with the team through the Stargate, and then for some reason goes looking for his dead son. And the whole thing winds up with them discovering that it's an alien race, and the crystals are there, and there's a million problems with this. But such a powerful episode. I absolutely cried when we watched again in his memories his son lose it. What'd you think?
Yeah, I love the actual visual impression that we had when we initially came through the Stargate. Just kind of that yellow sand and the blue crystals. I thought that looked really, really cool. Mm-hmm. So the first issue I took from it, one, I enjoyed the episode. Let's just get that away. I really did like the episode, all said and done. There's a couple cliches there. The first one being when Jack, or I don't know, Electric Jack, I guess if you want to call him, Crystal Jack.
Return of Jack?
When CJ, when CJ was going to leave the base, Teal'c stopped him and, made some comment about, hey, you promised to show me your Earth. I want to do that now. And Jack's like, no, we'll do it some other time. And I hate the stereotype, and we see it all over that Tilk turns on a television set and he's basically gets a viewpoint of our world based on like TV. You know, and of course, there's some news outlet about some rioting and, you know, and whatnot. And that's like his introduction into Earth is what's on television.
Yeah,
and we see that so many times.
It was like a bad after school special about how terrible the world is.
Yeah. So I didn't care for that, just because I'd seen that kind of viewpoint from an alien, you know, before, where their first impression is just turning on the television set and going, oh, Jesus, man, this place is screwed, you know, that type of thing.
I didn't understand at first why the alien didn't duplicate the gun and the hat, and why it had to take the hat.
Yes.
If it can create skin.
That they would?
If it can create skin and a whole body, why couldn't it just make...
Yeah, it created the mechanism that opens the iris, because they came back, and Jack came back later, so we know that happened too. But I think it was that the gun and the hat weren't physically touching Jack, which we kind of saw later in the episode.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Well, wait, his hat was on him though,
no,
wasn't it?
If you watch it when they show it from the alien's perspective, his hat gets blasted off of him before it duplicates him, because it wasn't an instantaneous duplication.
Okay. See, my thing was that after I watched the episode, I thought he didn't take the gun because he initially had Jack's memory about his son, and somehow, you know, he related that gun to being evil or something like that, and decided not to take it. But I completely think that what you just said was right, that he couldn't duplicate it because it wasn't there on him when he did do the duplication process. So I think my biggest gripe with that episode comes at the very end, when so real Jack shows up. Sarah, right? That's his wife or ex-wife's name. Sarah, yeah. And she was like, he's like, you know, this isn't our son. And she's like, yeah, I know. And she's like, you got to take him back to the Stargate, right? And he's like, yes. And there was just, it was said so nonchalantly, like, are we not going to wrap this up in terms of now you got to explain to your separated wife what a Stargate is? And one, it's not weird to her. Like, she just accepted it, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think she watched her son come back from the dead, and she watched her ex-husband get duplicated. I think she's willing to just kind of let it go. And he recognizes that she's been through some shit. And so he's just like, yeah, that's exactly it. Stargate, bye.
But don't you feel like, I felt like there should be some explanation. Like, she at least deserved some explanation about that. Like, she just went through this heart-wrenching, you know, having to deal with her husband coming back, right? And the whole thing about how he's kind of a different person, that she saw him almost cry, and that was something he had never done before. And then she has to see her son in a physical form, that I just felt like she deserved some explanation about how all that went down, you know? But I don't know if they do. She comes back up, right? Like, she has other parts in episodes, correct?
I meant to check that. I'm pretty sure she does.
Okay, so maybe down the road she gets the benefit of finding out exactly what Jack does. But
I think it's a different actress.
And I also felt like, what?
I think it's a different actress though. Later on.
Oh, that comes back as his separated or ex-wife. Yeah. Oh, okay.
Not that really matters.
I also felt like this was another example of some sort of just lackadaisical security measures in place. They weren't able to pick up that wasn't Jack, which is fine, whatever. And then Jack, you know, leaves the base, and then they're faced with this other, you know, new potential security risk of something coming through the Stargate and getting past, you know, them. But
right, but to that point, we have decontamination protocols. We have grown.
We have. You're right, actually. Yeah. No, we actually have whole new protocols in place, thank goodness, because, you know, I think we all saw how that went down.
Yeah, and that's my favorite thing about this show is, and I said this first time I watched it with my wife, 9 seasons in, it's building on things that we see in the first season. And this is one of those things where it just kind of naturally progresses. They mention the decontamination protocols when they're looking at the crystals, and it's just fantastic.
I did like how, when they're trying to figure out, when Carter gets the idea that the staff weapon possibly caused the breakage in that crystal. One, I thought it was weird that when they come find Tilk, they had been running, you know. But two, they go and get his staff weapon and they fire it, and of course all the alarms go off, and he asks, you know, if they got permission, and they're like, yeah, of course we did.
Yeah, and they didn't use safety goggles.
No, they didn't put it behind a blast shield of any sort.
No.
They'll learn. I think, yeah, they'll learn. They'll get their feet down, but there's still some safety issues I take offense with from time to time in that show. But Mark, what were your thoughts on it?
That was a really good episode to build Jack's character and show more of his humanity side and not just his military side.
Yeah, it was a little slow, but it did that well.
It was slow, and you were like, okay, where are they going with this? Is it just some alien just going to come and just troll around our place for a little while? But then it started getting really deep really fast.
We're definitely getting some, this early in the run, we're getting some heavy Jack-centric episodes, including just this episode of the podcast. We have 2 of them with Cold Lazarus and Brief Candle. Both are definitely heavy on the Jack side of things. And then even what was the episode that I actually really liked from the other week where you had the Broken Divide, which I really liked his performance in that too. But you're definitely getting some heavy Jack episodes right now, and I know down the road we get everybody kind of gets their fair screen time, but these opening 8 episodes have been heavy on the Jack side, which I don't mind.
Yeah, no, I mean, Richard Dean Anderson is the big actor for this. He's the only one in the credits when they first aired these for the first 5 seasons. And
really?
Yeah, they've gone back and redone the opening sequence for the DVD release, which is what we're seeing when we're watching them. But originally it was just Richard Dean Anderson, and then I think it wasn't until season 7 when we got Daniel Jackson added because he returned, and that was in his contract, and it was a whole thing. But I mean, because
I never noticed that.
MacGyver, he's the name, and in fact, one of the guards in this was in 3 episodes of MacGyver.
Really?
Charles Payne
was a guard from Cold Lazarus.
He was a guard in Cold Lazarus. He was Breeze in 3 episodes of MacGyver.
Man, they really did. Now, were they filming in Canada for these first few seasons, or were they still filming in the U.S.? Do you know?
I believe they were in Vancouver the whole time.
The whole time?
Yeah, and MacGyver filmed in L.A., but the Gecko production company that runs Stargate it's Richard Dean Anderson and some other guy, and they're the ones that are the producers of this show.
Okay, that would make sense then. Yeah, because I remember MacGyver, especially, you could absolutely tell was based, in the U.S., in L.A., and there were a lot of desert scenes and stuff like that. But, well, I guess, even Stargate has its fair share of desert scenes, so we'll kind of see how that goes. But no, all in all, I don't disagree with you, Kevin. I do think it was a good episode. There were just some parts in it that were either cliche, like the Teal'c watching or getting information about the U.S., or parts that I still want to see them beef up their security protocols a little bit more.
I agree with you, and I think to that point that this actually dovetails. One of the cliches that was missing was they didn't enhance that video of Jack coming through the gate. That was only, when you zoom in on it, 8 pixels, so I'm not shocked that they didn't figure out it wasn't him. Correct.
Yeah. Which, side note, watching that episode and watching like Carter work on the computers when they were trying to figure out, she wanted to do a mock-up of the cut to see if it matches up and shit like that. I was like, oh my God, those computers are so out of date.
Oh, it was painful to watch.
They're so old.
Looking like goddamn Commodore 64s. So the technology definitely gets there. But the other thing, do all of them need to have their keypads on them when they're coming through the Stargate?
No.
Or does only one person in the group need to have it?
It's one person
shouldn't
in
the
the
Iris
group
have shut down? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Because I was wondering that. I was like, how did Real Jack come back then? Or how did Cyber Jack come through?
That's what I meant. The crystals duplicated the controller. It's a little wrist bracelet thing. And apparently also knew the command to get through because it took some of his memories. Didn't take the fact that his son was dead, and then rifled through his stuff for the address for his ex-wife, even though it knew it, and then went out.
Yeah, his son being dead, you would think that would have been on the forefront.
Yeah, they explained it as
memory.
The crystal didn't realize that death was the same, or death was complete annihilation for humans because it isn't for them.
Some of the CG was a little off-kilt too. Like when Daniel's looking at it and he's like, "It's me," and I'm like, "What?" And I had to rewatch it, and I'm like, "Ugh, it's a bit of a stretch for you to identify that is you, you know.
Yeah, it's just a weird face with, like, again, 8 pixels.
Yeah. So, all said and done, though, I did enjoy the episode. Just, man, them coming through the Stargate initially, I thought that was really good coloration. Between that yellow sand and the blue crystals, it just looked really, really cool. Mark, you want to talk about the Nox buddy?
Sure. So, I thought this is always one of my favorite episodes, and I wish Stargate went more into their race and everything, but anyway, I'll just go through like a little synopsis of the episode. They start with their whole like new objective to gain new technology and everything. Teal'c says something about this one that all the Goa'uld have been looking for. No one could really find it. And I don't remember the name he called it, but he named the animal, I think.
Was it like a flurry? Or
yeah.
Flunnery?
Yeah, something like that. I don't remember exactly what it was.
Yeah.
Or no, I think it was Fennery, yeah.
Fennery. Yeah, you're correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and then, so they go there. There's like nothing there, and all of a sudden they see something flying around. They go check it out and can't find it when they shoot it down. Stumble upon Apophis and a bunch of his guards walking around too. Straight up try to kill him. Fail. All get killed, basically. And then they get, they all get, like, taken, like, disappeared and taken in front of, like, an Apophis is sitting there, just, like, not knowing what's going on. Then they're healed, they wake up, and it's these people that are just, like, healing them and just chilling there in the woods in their little shacks. Then it keeps going. Go around and attack them again, try to kill Apophis. And they can't because the Nox then save him, actually, even though they were trying to kill one of the kids. And then at the end, they'd send him back and show him that they have a huge-ass city sitting there the whole time.
Which I really liked. I liked the visuals on that
cool.
when they revealed the city at the end there.
Yeah, it was the best part of the episode.
Yep.
Yeah.
But why were they living in the woods, though? That's what I don't get.
That's their vacation home.
I see.
Yeah, it was summertime, man. They wanted to get down to the lake.
Yeah, also, I have it here in my notes. They're dirty fucking hippies.
Yeah, they are.
Fucking tree huggers. And, at the start of that episode, whether it definitely wasn't intentional, because if it was intentional, that's pretty badass. Teal'c kind of came off as a crack dealer there. He's like, "Oh, what do you want?" Like he's like, "What are you looking for? I got everything."
What you need?
He folds his hands on the table.
Yeah. No. Again, Teal'c kills me in so many episodes because of that, because of just how blunt he is, or that the mannerisms don't translate well. But did they explain it towards the end? When they're going to revive the little boy. Don't they said something about, we can take him to the others, and the adult male kind of says, no, the others are too far, he won't make it, type of thing.
Yeah.
So maybe maybe they're kind of choosing to live in the woods, or...
What's weird,
I
always have a problem with them, because they're like this apparently technologically advanced society and everything, but their one fatal flaw or bug is that they're not hidden when they're healing. Like, I feel like somebody should definitely work on that bug.
You would think so. Or, go ahead.
It's not going to be SG-1, because they couldn't even hide when they were in the middle of a firefight.
They just sit behind a couple of rocks and then just get hit.
No. They put a branch over Jack, didn't they?
Yeah, and then he stood up and kind of walked towards Apophis like he was the cool guy in a movie.
Yeah.
And it resulted in Daniel Jackson's second death in this series.
So far.
What?
He died in the movie. He died in this.
Yeah, you're right. And, spoiler alert, it's not the last time he dies.
We should keep a tally.
What?
I am.
Okay, good.
Okay, yeah. I was going to say, that is a damn fine idea. We need to keep a written record of the amount of times that he dies. No, I thought it was a pretty good episode, all said and done.
Yeah, what was weird was... Well, what I thought was kind of cool, though, was they're trying to teach them that another tactic of fighting is by not fighting and just staying hidden and letting no one know. But at the same time...
Yeah, but that wasn't even true.
Yeah.
It's not that they were hiding. It's that they were so powerful nothing had an effect on them. even death they could come back from.
Yeah.
They had a floating city that could have blown anybody away. They made Apophis disappear and threw him through the gate. It wasn't peace, it was threats.
Yeah, what was also weird was they don't, like, dial the gate or anything. They just kind of, like, whirl their hands together and it just, like, comes open.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with that. Any sufficiently advanced race would be able to figure it out. It's just tech.
Yeah, I'm just wondering where the tech is. Like, is it
Doesn't matter.
biological or is
it's
it...
in them. It's hidden. It responds to their minds. I don't know.
No, I know.
I think the only good thing to come out of this episode was Apophis's shield, which was the one thing we hadn't seen before. Other than that, I hated this episode.
I don't know if I can say I hated it. So at one point, Daniel's talking to what they deem is like one of the elders. And he's like, okay, now in 2 episodes twice have they had to like talk to a race about what time was, like the passage of time, like how on Earth it's one revolution and there's 365 days and yada, yada, yada. So he says, well, by your account, then I'd be like 432 years old or whatever he says. Do they die off? Because if they die off, what's the point in bringing people back? Like, is there certain thing? I guess my question at that point was, well, can they not fix natural death? Like, can they not fix like old age death? Because you would think then that they would be immortal, you know?
Yeah, it seems like it.
And that being 400 and something years old wouldn't be a big deal. He'd still be a child.
He would still be a child. Yeah. But he looked a lot more meek and frail than the rest of them, you know? So I don't know. I thought there was one really good line where they're talking about how the little boy was just curious and, you know, and the one guy says, well, sometimes young children don't do what they're supposed to do. And, you know, how it's kind of referenced back at the end, how SG-1 is still very young, which we talk about how, you know, their quarantine procedures change and security procedures change over time because they are still young and they are still learning about it. I did think that, you know, we finally, because in all honesty, if this was a real thing, that if the U.S. had technology like this, that only maybe 3 or 4 trips through a Stargate and then the U.S. would start inquiring about technology, you know?
Oh, I don't even think it'd take that long.
You did
I'm
episode
surprised
1.
colonization didn't come up.
Does it come up? No, I know it doesn't come up in this episode, but is that something that they do end up talking about?
No. Well, other than like alpha sites and like extra sites and stuff, but
They've never actually talked about. Well, and then, okay, so the Nox would have been a perfect possible setup for that because even at the beginning, Till comments how it's unpopulated with the exception of this creature, this finner that can, you know, cloak itself basically. But yeah, I thought it was finally time that we saw, you know, government coming in looking for, you know, what can this do for us versus just, you know, as a let's go discover new societies thing, and specifically about like weaponry. You know, he didn't ask about medicine or anything like that, which was what they were asking about when they did find the Nox. They didn't necessarily ask about like weaponry. They were specifically talking about the medicines and. Yeah,
I mean, but he's the Secretary of Defense. He's going to be all about weapons.
No, absolutely he is. But that's what I'm saying is that I'm glad to see that was finally introduced because I think that we could all agree that would happen. That if this was a real thing, that, you know, the government would look at this as a way to get a one-up on technology from possible enemies, whether it be foreign, as in worldly foreign, like, you know, let's say Russia or something, versus, you know, an interstellar type of problem. Mm-hmm. Which raises another question in this episode, which is something I had thought about. So he asks, you know, why don't you just bury the Stargate? And then he says, well, if we bury it, then they know that somebody was here, basically. And then they want them, they're trying to convince them to let them fight for them. And he says that they'll come back in giant ships and just bombard the planet. Do they have I guess they would have a way then, as I'm talking this through out loud, that even if the Stargate got buried, they would still have coordinates on where that planet is.
I guess
I take it.
Yeah, I don't think we really understand how space travel works for the Goa'uld, at least at this point.
Well, I wonder,
okay, but that was kind of my understanding, though. Go ahead, Mike.
I feel like the Nox are somehow like afraid of that they'll just come and bombard the planet. Like they've like got a floating city. Like You'd think that they have some sort of, like, shield or defense or something. Like, even if they don't have weapons, per se.
I would think that a race of people that are as advanced as what we're shown the Nox are would have some sort of way, like, it's almost ignorant to not fear it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like the fact that they're not worried, at least a little bit, at least, the fact that they don't even listen to SG-1 in terms of the possible repercussions or the possibility of, these giant ships coming back, I think that just shows an incredible amount of ignorance. My thinking then is that the Nox must have something that, like some sort of dome, that covers it. Because you would think that as advanced as they are, that if they didn't have something, they would at least, not be like, oh, no, it's fine, we're good, and just high-five each other. Like, oh, no, we got this one, guys. But another episode that I thought the visuals were really cool. I know we get a lot of episodes that are in the woods and whatnot, but...
Yep, welcome to Vancouver.
Oh, Canada.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, that's your... even Cold Lazarus, though. I mean, that didn't... with the Nox, you can definitely say, oh, this was filmed in Canada, but, you get things like Cold Lazarus or other times that they go to, like, desert area. They do a pretty good job pulling that off.
No, they do decent. No complaints there. It's just that not every planet is going to have pine trees.
Yeah.
Most of them.
A lot of them will, though. So a lot of forests.
The only other thing I wanted to point out about this episode is that Antius, the lead Nox,
yes,
played by Armin Shimmerman. He was Principal Snyder in Buffy and Quark on Deep Space Nine.
He absolutely was.
Love that
guy.
Didn't know.
I did not get the Buffy reference, but I got the Quark one pretty quick. I totally forgot the Buffy one, though, yeah. I still haven't gone through Deep Space Nine all the way. I try, man, but I lose interest so fast in that fucking show. Like, it's definitely my least favorite of all the Star Trek spinoffs.
Yeah, I can see that. It's a little slow. It does get a little better, and then the last season's, I guess, a better pace.
It's weird to have a Star Trek show or a show that is predominantly about space exploration to take place on a space station and not really go anywhere. To have the same.
No, you're right.
Well, I guess. Go ahead.
It would be like setting a Stargate show on a ship, which would just be really weird too.
But didn't we get that?
Did we? Oh,
what?
Do we?
Spoilers.
Do we?
Spoilers. And I mean, maybe that's why we're not currently watching that show.
Yeah.
But again, okay. I mean, you get it with all the other Star Treks. I mean, the majority of a Star Trek episode, your general episode, is taking place on the Enterprise.
Yeah, no, and I think they recognize that in Deep Space Nine. In the later seasons, they make Sisko a captain of his own ship, and he's running around in the Defiant and fighting against the I forget what they call him, the Jem'Hadar or whatever it is.
I don't. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that they had to because you just run the risk of getting stale. At least with a show like Stargate, a show like Star Trek, when you're visiting different worlds and you're changing the location and you're meeting new cultures all the time, you can create a show around that. You can create individual episodes, that are self-contained stories that kind of follow a whole arc. But yeah, neither here nor there though. So the third episode in tonight's cast was Brief Candle. Again, another Jack-centric episode, at least the later half of that episode was. Basic idea is they, of course, come through the Stargate, just like every other episode starts. They're greeted into would you call that a throne room? Maybe not a throne room. You know what? I'd call it a throne room. Kind of a shrine to a lost god, if you will. Greeted with a couple people that are having a baby, because why not? And they need help, because why not? Of course, Carter, being the scientist, I don't know why. I just assumed Carter would have the expertise, more of a medical training to handle, having a kid. But of course,
that is so sexist.
She's the one that's supposed to be like the super scientist and whatnot. I just, out of those four, right, I would have assumed Carter would have had the more of the medical training. That's all, because Jack's purely military, Teal'c purely military, and Daniel is a bookworm. Somehow he's given, he's helped childbirth before, at least one other time that we know of, which really, maybe, I didn't think about this,
spent a year.
But when he was living off planet,
yeah,
I would have thought that maybe he he would have at least been around childbirth a little bit more frequently.
Well, I think in the episode he says something about it was a dig in Antigua, or I forget where, but it was on Earth, which I found weird, because you're right, it should have been on Abydos.
Yeah, you would think that he would have been exposed to it more on Abydos than he was on Earth. But you're right, it was in Antigua. That was number 1, and then this being number 2. So, child gets delivered perfectly fine. They named it after Daniel, Daniel, and then they want to go back to their village to celebrate and whatnot. While there, basically, Jack gets roofied. He gets Cosby'd, if you will, with cake. Somehow they bake roofies into the cake on the planet, and he's seduced by not the most ugly women on the planet, that's for sure. Seduced. We later find out that was marriage cake. Then we notice that everybody on the planet falls asleep at sundown, including Jack, with Carter and Teal'c and Daniel not being affected by it. We then find out everybody wakes up at the exact same time. Jack wakes up with this killer hangover. Nobody else does, but again, he was drugged. So they run some tests. Long story short, Jack starts aging at an exponential rate. And they're forced to go back home to try to find a cure for this. Come to find out that it's basically Goa'uld technology, that this prophet that they had been waiting on was a Goa'uld, and that he was basically using this planet and those people as test subjects to try to figure out the lifespan of a humanoid, about trying to figure out how long he could stay within that body and what kind of issues that would prove down the road. Meanwhile, Jack is aging at an incredible rate. And yet the woman that roofied him in the first episode, when Jack looks like he's 70, is somehow still attracted to him, which I don't get that. That's whatever. But it basically turns out that these people have, 100-day lifespan. Baby that Daniel helped deliver on the second day is starting to look like he's like 6 years old. So that's how these people are aging. But they find out that it was a Goa'uld that was doing this, that it was his technology that was still on the planet that was still allowing people to only live for 100 days. And of course, they fix all of that. My initial thoughts was I actually really liked the episode, but again, I really liked the episode because of Jack's performance. Because Richard Dean Anderson did just another great job, growing old and showing a different side of him, kind of like what we had in Cold Lazarus. You kind of get more of a personal look at Jack as he's aging. You still get that kind of cocky asshole Jack until he starts to get really old and whatnot. And then he kind of figured out what was going on and whatnot. But I still enjoyed it. Without Jack's performance in there, I don't know if it would have still been that good. I just think that he kind of saved the episode. Didn't really have a whole lot Carter or Daniel or Teal'c in there, but all in all, I did enjoy it. Kevin, what'd you think?
I thought it was an all-right episode. Much like the Nox, it wasn't my favorite. I did want to know what was in that thing that Jack ate that looked like a seafood dessert pizza, and I kind of want one.
It was crunchy, but it looked like cake at the same time to me.
Yeah,
it was like
figure
that out.
Chicago deep dish from people who've never been to Chicago.
Yeah. There was roofie in there.
There was a little bit of roofie, because then he had sex with her until she died, and they couldn't figure that out, and then he died, and it was really kind of cool. Did Teal'c have a cold in this? Because he sounded like it. He sounded like the one that had been roofied.
Did he?
Yeah, he didn't speak much, and when he did, it was like this.
I did not notice, to be honest with you. I'm. You know what? Tonight I'm gonna rewatch, because he had some speaking lines towards the beginning, when they were, or I guess towards the middle, when they're trying to decipher the language on the statue.
Yep.
But I think you're right, man. He didn't have a whole lot of speaking on that. Maybe that was it. Maybe he was sicker than a dog, and they were just like, okay, we're going to write you almost out of this episode.
Yep, here you go. You're going to be robo-tripping. Just kind of stay there, stand upright.
I would have liked to know a little bit more about the dialect that was on that statue myself. They did mention that it was a very ancient dialect, and that somehow Teal'c knew a little bit about it, knew enough about it. Clearly he knew enough about it that they could figure out the frequency at the end of the episode. But Mark, what'd you think, bud?
I thought it was all around good episode. Kind of random, but still builds on showing how more evil the Goa'uld actually are, that they just Just straight up start an experiment. Just be like, we'll check on that later. Oh, forgot about that. Oops.
I would have liked to seen what, and I'm sitting here and I'm really trying to remember what the name of the Goa'uld.
Pelops.
Pelops, yes, thank you. Yeah, I would have liked to know what did happen to him, because I think that
explained it.
Jack just kept yelling towards the end of the episode. Jack just keeps yelling, he's gone, he's not fucking coming back, that type of thing.
Oh yeah, that's when Jack was the old-timey prospector.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
I loved that part.
Whoa.
Didn't he?
Out at the water hole.
Yeah, he was just missing one of those hats.
Yes.
Kind of the big hats
And a
that
lawn
kind of go up
chair.
into point. Yeah,
We'll get him some overalls.
yeah, dude. If he would have said anything about get the hell off my property or whatever, that would have just been the best.
Yeah.
But I would have liked to seen a little bit more. I think that the idea that a Goa'uld would have done that, I think fits very, very well with the storytelling, with the history of the Goa'uld. Yeah. I think that it didn't really come out of left field. Like I was like, oh yeah, I could definitely see one of them doing that, like testing out the lifespan of humans and whatnot.
Trying to make the perfect host.
Yeah. And they didn't really force it. I felt like it was just weaved very well in the narrative of who the Goa'uld are and whatnot. But I would have liked to see just maybe a little bit more in terms of what else was on that planet, because it basically seemed like when you first got there that it was the Rigel of the Stargate unit. Well, not Rigel. Ryzen? Ryzen, is that the Star Trek one? Ryza, yeah. It seemed like it was the Ryza of the Stargate universe, that it was like this perpetual paradise planet,
Did they explain where the food
I would have liked to
came from?
Say what?
Did they explain where the food came from or anything?
No, it was just, I think I know where you're going with this. So, no, they didn't. And they were set on a beach, like, the village was set on a beach, and they were told that they couldn't go past a certain point that we don't know what that point is. So I don't know. You would infer that all the food was inside of that bubble or inside of that enclosed area, but it didn't look like it, man. It didn't look like the village and the area was really all that big.
What do you think they do with all the dead people?
Oh,
yeah, I don't know. Maybe they eat.
You think they went all Soylent Green on it?
Soylent Green is people.
Interesting.
Wow. But yeah, I thought it was a lighthearted episode for the most part. I think the one thing that I really took away, the one part I really liked, like I said, was that it kind of fit with the Goa'uld. It kind of just showed things that they did to lengthen their own life and kind of the shittiness that they would go through.
Yeah, and I like little things that happen in it, like Daniel gets the Goa'uld Palm Pilot, so now he's got some other things. They can build off that, though.
They
there's
absolutely
so
can.
much information that could be in there. They can learn so much from that.
And it was the first time that we hear the word replicator.
Yep.
Ooh.
Yep, that'll come back to haunt
everyone.
Yes, it will.
And I did like the little throwaway line that, like, these things only made them age at night. And it's a tiny little detail, but it was kind of cool to have a little bit more depth and a little bit more background to some of these stories.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. No, absolutely. I think that the majority of all the episodes do a very good job about fleshing out a story. I know I haven't watched all these episodes in a couple of years now, but there's really only a couple that I remember that the stories were just so sporadic and so off the cuff that it was almost cringeworthy to sit and watch 45 minutes of it. Far and away, they do a really good job about fleshing out stories. Any other final thoughts on any of those 3 episodes? I think that we all liked Lazarus. I think we're 2 out of 3 on Nox.
Yep.
And basically 3 out of 3 on Brief Candle.
That's what I want to bring up. I want to talk about best of 3. What did we think about all 3 of them when talking about all 3 episodes? What was your favorite? Pick one.
Ooh, I would probably go with Brief Candle. And
all
again,
right.
it would only be because out of those 3, I think that Jack's performances sold me on Cold Lazarus and Brief Candle. But I've got so much issue with the Cold Lazarus, the whole thing about Sarah finding out about the Stargate and not really being all that upset about it.
Yep.
I thought that they left that too open-ended. But on the same time, with Brief Candle, she, Cynthia, his quote-unquote wife, he says, we're going to send people back here to check on you from time to time, to make sure that they're living a healthy life. And she says to him, are you coming back And he doesn't really, he says no, but he doesn't say no, you know? And I'm like, come on, dude, don't be a dick. Like,
Yep.
the chick married you, you know? Like,
Yeah, seriously.
At least come back. And she's pretty hot.
Toss her something.
Like, yeah, you know? So I would probably lean towards Brief Candle with gold technology and seeing that. I don't know. I felt more entertained for 45 minutes out of that episode.
All right. Mark, which episode was your favorite and why was it the Nox?
I would say the Nox, and I always love the more advanced technology races episodes where they show all the more advanced technology, or they more don't show and just tell us back off, you're too young or whatever.
Oh yes, because not showing us and just telling us is the best form of storytelling.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm also frustrated with it because they don't give you anything to like hold on to. So I wonder if they just like decided not to go really anywhere with them and just keep them a mystery.
Do we ever see the Nox again?
We do remember. Later.
Okay.
In a couple.
Oh, they do actually come back up?
Yeah, they do.
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, but then there's the furlings that never come up ever.
Yeah, I mean, I knew they were mentioned again. I just didn't know if we'd ever actually physically see them.
Yeah, they come back. At least one of them
Okay.
does. Not for a while, though.
All right, and you said the what doesn't come back?
Or we never hear about the furlings. That's the different race, but...
The flying things?
No, the furlings are one of the 4 major races. Yeah. We'll get more into that as we get later.
Yeah,
Oh,
I didn't want to go too far into that, but...
You're spoiling shit for me, son.
Yeah, drop it, dude. Come on.
All right, Mark. Oh, I'm sorry, Kevin. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Sorry.
It was Cold Lazarus. There's no question. Yeah. Yep, it had the most. It was the least boring of the 3. I had the most to say, and I thought it was fantastic.
I again don't think it's a bad episode. I don't know. I just took so much offense on the fact that she just accepted it so well. That she was like, fine, it's a Stargate, whatever. You know, like I would have so many questions about that, you know.
And maybe she does. We don't see what they talk about afterwards. He did say we'd talk about it later, and then someone whisks her away while he goes in and gets electrocuted for no fucking reason.
Well,
Side note, go ahead. Go ahead, Mark.
Wasn't Jack before in, like, Special Ops or something? So I wonder if she was used to, like, just random words coming up and her just having to accept it.
You know what? No, you're absolutely right. Maybe it is a fact that because he did spec ops and probably couldn't talk about it to anybody anyway, that she was kind of used to him being cryptic, you know, having secrets about work and whatnot.
Yep.
But that seems like a big one. That's not like,
I don't ever explain
hey,
it,
I was in Russia and I was doing some you know, badass shit. You know, this was, this guy's made of pure energy. You know, there was something. Oh, on that episode, so Sarah, we know that's Sarah's dad, right?
Yeah.
Does she refer to him by his first name at one point?
No, he's not credited as anything but Sarah's dad.
Okay, because so when Jack comes downstairs, when Jack comes downstairs, they're sitting downstairs in the living room. She's like, I almost saw you crying, whatever, and he says smoke, or I smell smoke. And she's like, son of a gun, so and so left the stove on. But says that dude's, like, gives that guy a first name. Doesn't say dad left the stove on. She says, like, Steve left the stove on, or whatever the case may be. So that's the only reason I asked.
What if her dad's name is Steve?
That's what I'm saying, though. Like, I just wanted to make sure that was her dad, though, man. Because I've never gone home.
What if she left
I
Jack
guess
for
I do it.
dad?
I don't know. And it was, I don't know. The whole episode, like when he said something to Jack, if you break her heart again, you know, basically I'll kill you or whatever. I'm like, don't make open threats, old man. You know, like, I'm pretty sure Jack could take you if he really wanted to, you know? It was a really good episode, though. I'm very nitpicky on some things, that's all.
No.
I know. Sometimes the OCD kicks in, that's all. Any other final thoughts on those 3 episodes?
Nope.
No, I'm good.
Okay, well, next week we're looking at Thor's Hammer, Torment of Tantalus, and Bloodlines. Have you guys had a chance to kind of look at those 3 episodes yet?
No.
I know them
Okay.
now.
Okay, all right. Well, Mark, we'll let you take first pick on which one.
Torment of Tantalus.
You want Torment of Tantalus,
Yeah.
huh? Okay. So that leaves Thor's Hammer and Bloodlines, Kevin.
Oh my God, Thor's hammer.
Thor's Hammer?
Absolutely.
All right. Okay, I'll take Bloodlines. Screw it.
Nice.
I don't care. I don't care. I love them all, except for Cold Lazarus. I hate Cold Lazarus. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, we'll definitely take a look at those. Yeah, Thor's Hammer, Tournament Tantalus, and that is 9, 10, and 11 by our calculations. 9, 10, and 11 for episodes. So, all said and done, I hope you guys really enjoyed the 3 episodes too. I definitely did. Nitpicking about a couple of things, but again, I think they all built on the Stargate story. I think they all added more to the history, to the mythos of it, helped bring the whole, story further along. I don't think any episode actually slowed it down or added stuff that we didn't need to know type of thing. So, not anything that I would call like a filler episode yet. I don't think we've really had too many filler episodes. So, they were good though. They were absolutely good. So I really look forward to the next 3. I don't know about you guys. I'm having a hard time stopping myself at 3 episodes right now.
Yeah, I pretty much have to. Otherwise I would continue on forever.
No, I would too, man. I would absolutely spend my weekend
You can
just binge watching this.
Just watch.
Yeah. Yep. And by the time we got to, recording, I would have to take the most detailed notes per episode because, I just wouldn't have the space to remember everything.
Yeah, I don't want to have to rewatch them again.
Or you accidentally start.
Yeah,
saying
no.
stuff that's not supposed to know yet.
Yep. So, I'm definitely, after each episode, I'm more and more excited about getting into it more. I think we're going to really start getting into some really good stuff here soon. I do know Bloodlines starts to get into some information that's really going to get built on. I do know that much. Other than that, I can't remember much about any of those episodes. So, I look forward to talking to you guys again next Monday. Hope you guys have a good week. Yeah, it'll be good. It'll be good. So, thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.